So we've already talked about the importance of preparing the interview, of finding out about the company before you actually meet the person. And similarly, I think you have to prepare answers that might come up during the interview regarding potential weaknesses in your career, in your CV. For example, somebody who has moved around a lot, changed jobs every 2 years, has to think of a good reason why they've done that, has to justify it during the interview if the question comes up, as it probably will. Somebody who's been unemployed for the last 12 months. Why have you been unemployed? Why haven't you found a job? Or why haven't you been looking for a job? You have to think up a good reason to justify this before you go for the interview. And everybody has weaknesses in their career. It wouldn't be human otherwise. And I would recommend very strongly that you go through your CV, ideally with a third party, with a friend, your partner, maybe a colleague who knows that you're looking for another position, and try and sort out the potential weaknesses and the potential questions that could come up where you have to justify with a pertinent answer. But bear in mind that if you're actually having the interview, it's because your strengths almost certainly outweigh the weaknesses. Otherwise, you wouldn't be summoned for the interview. So you have to think about your weaknesses in the positive light, as it were. And prepare also for certain standard questions that often come up during an interview that you can probably find on internet. What's your main weakness? What are your main strengths? Why should we recruit you for this position? These are questions that come up all too often, and with a little bit of homework, you can prepare for them. But my favorite question, and one which I think you should think about before any interview, is what is the most difficult thing that you've done in your career or in your personal life? And as is always the case, it's not the question, but the answer that's the most revealing. And sometimes I will have a candidate who will say, I reduced the deadline for the management reports by 2 days. But try and think of something a bit more original. For example, a candidate I interviewed a few years ago told me, well, probably the most difficult thing that I've done, I broke my back in a skiing accident, and 12 months later, I climbed to the peak of Everest. And I can assure you that if you have an answer like that, you're going to stand out from all or most of the other candidates.